And we're live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 113 of Office Hours. And today I'm going to show you our new PnL feature that's coming live in about 2 weeks for Pioneer subscriptions and other users. And we are also going to show you some profitable addresses and how you can discover them yourselves. We've had a few requests as well from the community to look into some AI tokens. So when we get time at the end of this episode, we'll cover that as well. So I want to kind of show a few things at the moment. So as you're watching this on YouTube, hello. We also have a Nansen 101 playlist. This playlist will show you how to use certain features from like signals, and you can also see in the app if you're not using like an ad blocker or Brave browser, you can just like see them within the app. So you'll see some signals around here and so on. As I do have, as I'm using Brave, you can't see it for now, but if you aren't using it, then you'll be able to see it. And I also want to point out that we have this What's New tab. If you want to see what's new in Nansen, this is what's coming up. And then you can also see what is coming soon. So a little teaser of like some of the cool stuff we're working on. The really cool thing about PnL, and this is one of the things I really, really love about it, is that it's multi-chain. So one thing that you'll learn or see through Nansen over the next couple of weeks and months is that everything is going multi-chain. Signals, multi-chain. Smart alerts, multi-chain. Everything is going to be multi-chain to give you significantly more alpha and allow you to understand trends in the market and just do what you need to do. So that's really, really cool. I'm really excited about it. We're making more and more improvements to this as we go on. For example, if we go to Justin Sun here, you'll now see that when you open up an entity, you'll go onto all chains as the default rather than Ethereum. And this applies to all entities and everything like that. So you can now start seeing all this stuff right away and get everything you need to know rather than this Ethereum bias that we had at the start. So just got an update here, skip this version. Okay, so you always want to know our PnL. I'm really excited about this. I think our PnL is going to be absolutely killer. It is a huge improvement from what we had beforehand. I don't think there's anything as good in the market right now for this. So what we're going to do is show you some interesting addresses first. I'm going to show you this address actually. Sick. So right now, as I say, PnL is currently in development. We'll be testing it with our professional subscribers. So professional subscribers get early access to new features as one of the many perks that they have with this subscription. And so they're able to see it. You won't be able to see PnL just right now, but here's what it would look like. And it should be launched in about 2 weeks. So if you go to the PnL tab, and what I really, really like about this is that it gives you first the 90-day highlights. So these are these like cards that you see, and this gives you an overview of the address. And what I think is really useful here is that when you go to an address, you can check this and decide whether or not this is something that you are interested in. And so the reason why I say this is so rather than diving into different transactions, what profile of a token, how they do in here, how they do in there, you just have to check the PnL to find out if they're valuable to research even further. So what do we see here from $DAO.eth? So across all chains, again, as I mentioned, everything is now multi-chain. We can see that they turned 33K into 284K. Degen. They've made 278% in unrealized profit, which is really cool because not only do highlights cover realized gains and losses, they also cover unrealized. And unrealized profit and losses is something that's really, really useful in deciding whether or not an account is worth tracking, whether it's worth adding a custom label to, because this is something that can serve as an indicator. When they buy, when they sell, you can use this information to your advantage. For example, if someone is up significantly in unrealized profit for a token, let's use Pepe in this example as we look at this address. If they look to sell their token after being up significant, then this might be something that you might want to keep an eye on and set smart alerts for. So if they're selling, this might be an indicator for you to analyze your holdings and decide maybe if they're selling, it might be an opportunity for you to take profit. But it's important that you just do your own research to decide that. So what's really cool is that if you use these unrealized profits tokens and where these addresses, where they're up in unrealized profit or unrealized losses, you can use that information to your advantage to make much better decisions with better precision. Beyond that, we also have these aggregated stats. I think this is incredibly useful. You can see the average return on investment on the trade, the win rate, the amount of trades an address has. An address that has a significant amount of trades and maybe a small win rate. It's not something that's worth looking into. But this address I find really, really useful because they've made a significant amount of trades, 1,300. That's a lot. but then they have a significant return on investment on their trades. This is likely due to one or two tokens being the outlier, and they have a 60% win rate, and that's really, really high. So more often than not, they're winning than they are losing, and this is something that you might want to track. So that's one address. And so how did I find this? So right now, personally, I'm quite interested in the base ecosystem. I think there's a lot of catalysts in that market. And so what I did is that I would go to a token, let's say DGen, and I'd go to balances, and I'd look at the top holders here, and you can kind of see what they're doing. So if I look onto wakefinance.eth, I can then go to see what they're doing. They're up a significant amount on DGen, and that's pretty impressive. You can see their other holding is ETH. So we go to PnL, let's just confirm, let's see what's going on here. That's impressive. So what we see here is that this address is up significantly. And then I was talking to you about how you can use custom labels or smart alerts to kind of monitor things. Right now, smart alerts aren't on base or multi-chain, but they are coming soon. So what you would do potentially in this example was set up a customer label for this address. And to do that, you would go to overview, and then you would click on this here or click on manage labels. In this example, I'm going to click on watch list. I will then say, because the token I'm interested in is DGen here, I would type in DGen, and then I would say that they are a meme coin trader. So now whenever I see this address throughout Nansen, I know that the token that I'm particularly interested in is DGen, but I also know they're a meme coin trader and they're up quite significantly. If I have anything I want to write here, I can add to notes. And from there, I add them to my watch list. And if I ever want to go back to them, I'll just go to watch lists. And there it is. Wonderful. But in the future, when we have smart alerts, you'll be able to set smart alerts for this. And there's some really interesting workflows that we have that I really can't wait to share with you once we have smart alerts on multi-chain. I think that's going to be a game changer, especially when you're starting to look at the amount of chains that we're integrating and being able to see addresses across these different chains. So you can see, are they moving to different networks, what they're trading, what's going on. The more you put into Nansen, the more you get out. I think that's something that's always been true and always will be true. And another way that you can look into interesting addresses, we can find the PnL. Let's look at a token on Ethereum. First thing I want to do is go to the home screen, and I'm going to look at a smart money token inflow. We've done a video episode of Office Hours on this, and this is one of the workflows that I use very regularly. So if you go to our Office Hours playlist and maybe look at a workflow that I look into, I can't remember exactly the wording, but it's all about how I use smart money token inflow as a way to surface interesting addresses. And I also use that as a way to understand trends. Currently it is for Ethereum, but again, multi-chain. And I might even put a tweet out after this episode to say, everything's going multi-chain. You will like it. So let's look into Pepe. It's really interesting. We see the chart up only at the moment. It's quite impressive. I remember talking about this earlier and just seeing some interesting moves. And so what you can do is that you go to the 7-day on the who bought, or this seems new. Sorry. So we are shipping an awful lot at the moment, and this seems to be a new update. And I'm going to play around with it in real time with you guys to show you how I would use it. So by the looks of things, this is a custom date for who bought and who sold. And so what I'm really interested in now is, so if we look into the chart here, is it month? Last month. Okay, cool. So what we see here is that between the 13th, let's say 14th of April to the 20th of April, there was a big dip. And now the price is up significantly. And that was beyond 7 days. So I want to see who the biggest buyers are for this and see who they are and what else they're trading. Okay, that's quite cool. So I said the 14th of April and the 20th of April. So I would enter here. We go to the 14th, and then the end date would be the 20th. So this is a new feature. I'm not aware of it. I'm playing around with it. So one of the cool things about Office Hours is that we play around with things. If you have any feedback for us, please share it with us. We might find bugs, we might find new features, we might find new workflows, we might find all sorts of interesting things. And that's the really cool thing about Office Hours. And of course, if you have any questions for us, please throw it away. The who bought and who sold widget is probably one of my most favorite parts of Nansen at the moment for doing token discovery, address discovery, being able to create my own smart alerts and be able to watch what's going on in the market. If you want and you're interested in this, I can definitely do an episode of Office Hours on this particularly. And we have this across various networks like Base, which is quite hot at the moment. And so what I've done here is set that custom time frame, and I'm going to press save. I'll see if it works. And it does work. This is cool. So What we've done now is we've set a custom date range to look at the top buyers between the 14th of April and the 20th of April. Why this is interesting is because now I can look and do some backdate testing to discover interesting addresses that may be highly profitable. And if they're highly profitable, we want to know who they are and we want to see what they're doing so we can see when they're making moves in real time and use that information to our advantage. So what you do here is that you can hover over. Some of the feedback that we've had so far with new PnL from our professional subscribers is to include PnL in the hover, so you don't even need to dive into the address. So again, it's making that whole process a lot smoother for you when you're doing your research. This address is worth $6 million. They bought $287,000 worth of Pepe. I'm going to press Command and then click. So when I press Command click, it opens up a new tab and that allows me to stay on the dashboard that I'm looking at and continue doing my research and going through addresses. So again, the 90-day smart DEX trader, I'm interested in that. This millionaire here, let it load. Again, interested in this. I'm not interested in this address here because it's not labeled much, so maybe it's just a one-off occasion. This address here, because that's an ENS and their value is quite significant relative to the bot, so maybe they made a big trade here. And then I'm also going to look at this high balance address here. And again, Command click. So just to recap where we're at, we're using token god mode to discover interesting tokens. We look at Pepe particularly because we saw that on the smart money token inflow. I'm choosing it as a random token. Again, everything on office hours is not financial advice. I'm just showing you on-chain data to help you understand what's going on-chain. And you can use the on-chain data to make decisions for yourself. And so I just discovered that we have a custom date range, something that I've actually personally requested because I want to be able to backdate some of the top buyers and sellers. And we've managed to set it when Pepe was having a recent dip between the 14th of April and the 20th of April. And we did that by clicking on this emblem here. So we zoom out 6 months, that was a big dip. So if they've managed to buy here, maybe a first-time buyer, a new time, or maybe they're adding to their position, this could be considered smart. And if it is considered smart, we want to know about it and we want to use that information to our advantage. I then looked at the top buyers and pressed Command click to open up new tabs. And so now the next step is to look at these addresses and see if they're interesting or actionable. So the first address is this active token millionaire. So I'm just going to share my tab here. And that's an interesting portfolio. I find this to be very interesting. GM Tommy, nice to have you here. And it's nice to have everyone here. If you like the time for office hours, we can do it this time. I mean, it's been pretty chaotic in London at the moment. So it's like a very last minute thing today. And now we're just looking into tokens and how you can discover highly profitable addresses. So we've gone to this address here. We're going to see the token balances. We can see that Wrapped ETH is their highest balance. And judging by the fact that it's taken a while to load up the data here, I imagine this address has a lot of transactions. So it might be a bot. And if we look at their activity, it looks pretty chaotic. So I'm just going to go to PnL quickly. And so this is one of the things that is like indicator to see the usage. I find that addresses that are making consistent transactions all the time throughout the day, non-stop, addresses typically be bots, and they're very difficult to stay updated because the way that they make moves in the market is going to be different from, let's say, an individual. So if you don't have that bot or the tool, then it's not something that you can stay on top of. And so far we can see that their biggest win by the looks of things is this token alt, where they've made 56 million. I'll see what the data says there. I'll tell you what, while that loads, I am going to, here we go, it's loaded. So that's wrong there, there's a bug. I'm going to unrealized here. And we're just having a look to see what they've done. So I'll wait for that to load. I'll go into the smart DEX trader. So boom, I'm going to switch over here. So this is an address that we found, and now we're going to do some research into deciding whether or not this is actionable. And if it is actionable, what actions we need to take. So we can see their portfolio has grown significantly. Their biggest holding is in Pepe, so significant, especially when we look at the context. We were particularly looking into the dates between April and between the 14th of April and the 20th of April. So if they're adding to that position, that is very bullish potentially. They hold other tokens. They've had some relatively decent wins here, 50% here, 70% here. It's good. Tommy, no, PnL isn't live just yet. PnL is coming live very, very soon. So this feature here that I'm just loading up now is going to be coming live in about 2 weeks. And it's going to be multi-chain. One of the big things at the moment with Nansen is everything is going multi-chain, which is really, really cool. I'm very excited about it. So you've got smart alerts, signals, and so on from there. Can you search for wallets by a winning rate percentage? You can't. And the reason for this is that I was speaking to someone internally about this earlier today. And he was saying there's so many wallets, you have to try and bring them together. Like we're talking millions of addresses on just Ethereum alone. So it's so much data that it's just not feasible for us to just show wallets for winning by winning rate. But a good way to discover addresses would be to either backtest token movements through the Who Bought widget, or looking at smart money and seeing some of these top addresses, and also just looking at tokens that may have had a really big price movement over, let's say, the last month, last 3 months, and then see who the top holders are, and then kind of go from there. And the more that you use Nansen, the more that you can see these interesting addresses, and then you can kind of see what's going on there. I think there could be something there, the top 100. There's a few ideas that I have internally about, I'm going to share them internally about what we can do. But for now, I don't think there's anything there. We spent a lot of time in the PnL, and we're still testing it out. And I think there is a lot here in being able to understand what is going on. There is something actually in terms of the PnL, now I think about it, that we're going to be doing for tokens, and there's going to be like a leaderboard potentially. So if you're familiar with Nansen 1, we used to have a dashboard, like which would have been like here, and that would show you the PnL of some of these addresses that are doing well and their token holdings and so on. It's still in the earlier stages, but what we're effectively looking at potentially building is a PnL leaderboard for these addresses, and this will cover both realized and, importantly, unrealized gains. And then from there, you can probably use that to surface interesting addresses, set up custom labels, set up smart alerts, and allows you to kind of get that edge in the market. So if you're seeing addresses with significant unrealized profit, you can use that as a way to track as maybe a sell indicator if they're selling, maybe if they're buying even more, that could be a buy indicator. But it's a case-by-case basis, and you'll have to see what the data is showing. Again, now this is financial advice. So we look at this 90-day smart DEX trader. They turn 38K into 50K, 32K profit. I'm going to go to unrealized profit here to see where they're at. I'm just wait for this to load. I'm going to see 55%, nothing else too major here. And so what I'm going to do now is right-click and go to wallet profile of a token. Wallet profile of a token tells us everything we need to know about the token, the address, and the token. We're making some improvements here to integrate the new PnL and also just some visual changes to make it even better. And so let's scroll down here and see what they were doing. And we can see that they were selling at points and they're buying, and they've been buying quite aggressively. And they recently bought some more, or it looks like they're providing LP actually. So they've been quite aggressive. They are bidding Pepe quite interestingly. So if I were to be someone who's interested in this address, what I would do is then go to manage labels, and then create a custom label. Maybe I'll set up a smart alert. One of the workflows that I really want to highlight soon when we have multi-chain smart alerts is how you can create custom labels. And then based on those custom labels, you can then set up a smart alert for that custom label. And so what this effectively allows you to do is to have your own smart money or your own meme coin traders or your own DeFi traders, your whatever you want it to be, and then have that manually update whenever you find new addresses. You can give them that label, custom label, and then that'll update the smart alert. So you can see what's going on in real time with this. And I think that's really, really powerful. I use it already on Ethereum for a bunch of different things. Maybe I find a signal where some funds have moved from like a fund to different wallets, and I've labeled all those new wallets, those fresh wallets. So if they do move funds to an exchange, then I can use that as an indicator to make a decision on what's going on and where I can take market action. So in this case, going back down to discovering interesting addresses, this address hasn't made too much money recently, and Pepe they're quite bullish on. So if I was interested in this, I would set up a label from here. But let's move on to the next address here. So share the tab here, blah, 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 blah. We can see they're a millionaire, and the trade highlights aren't that significant. So again, not that interesting. But this address, on the other hand, looks more interesting. And if we scroll down, we can see that Andy, they're up by over 100% on Render, a token that we're going to look into later today. Because we've had some requests to look at some AI tokens. They made over 220%. On Apu, 37%. That meme coin's flown, and I think we've covered it a few times now in office hours. Like, hi, is this token that we've seen? So yeah, it was really interesting to see it just pop through. And if we look at their portfolio, they're absolutely in Pepe, like no tomorrow, and they're hoping to make it big. So let's see what the unrealized PnL is. And I think this might be something that's a bit more actionable. So we can see the average return on investment is quite low. They have a better than 50% win rate, which is okay. It's not fantastic, but it's better than losing money all the time. And then we go to unrealized gains here. So again, PnL isn't live just yet, but it is coming live soon. And about 2 weeks is what I've been told. And then we'll be able to explore all these different addresses and be able to do some research on these tokens and so on forth. And we see Pepe, they're up 50%, which is pretty cool. Because if we go back down to what we started with, what we did is we went to token god mode for the token that we're interested in. For the example, we used Pepe. We went to this little widget here to set up a custom date, and we set the date between the 14th of April to the 20th of April. And what we did there is then find the top buyers, and then from there we went through some of these addresses, and we've now found an address here that is up 50% in unrealized gains. So they bought the dip, and they're now up substantially because of this. So this is something that I would say is interesting. So you're going to ask me, hey, that's an intern, what do we do? I'm glad you're asking. So I'd go to overview and I'd go to manage labels and the token that I'm interested in. So what I do for best practice, I always kind of say, if there's an address that's mainly focused on one token, maybe two tokens, I'll always include the token here to say Pepe. So in this example, I'm interested in this because this is the token that I'm interested in. So when we're talking about smart alerts for custom labels, if you're interested in a specific token and the addresses that are interesting within that, you can set up a smart alert for everyone that has this Pepe label that you've created. So if you're seeing tokens being bought or sold, you can use that information to your advantage, which is pretty cool. And then we can say, look, add this wallet to our watch list. Boom. And to drop it in the chat, it is, here we go. So there's some alpha there for you. So that's the address if you want to check it out. And we can see what they're doing. And then what you might want to do, as I was saying, is set up a smart alert. So smart alerts allow you to get real-time updates on an address or addresses on Slack, Telegram, or Discord. So then when they're making moves, you can see what they're doing and then use that information to get edge in the market. So you don't have to wait to see what people are saying. Crypto Twitter, you can see, hey, like this address has done this cool move. I'm going to use this information to my advantage. And then the final address that I want to look at is this one. But in this case, it is not that exciting. It seems like they're a Riverbot. So, boring. What we're now going to do, as I'm conscious for time, as it's been, 22 minutes, is that we're going to have a look into render. And so what's really cool here is I've just gone to signals for you. This is also another new feature that's going to be coming out very soon. And this uses whatever you're interested in on Nansen, we'll be able to surface this into personalized signals. So you get to see signals that match to you the most. So if you had a token on your watch list, if you're actively searching for specific sectors, you'll start seeing more of these signals. And if you really like them, give them a like. If you dislike them, dislike it. And then based on that, we use machine learning to make sure you get the best insights for you. So what's really cool is that we've seen a smart money has sent 2.6 million of render. And I'm going to show you how to research this signal and show you how you can take this information and use it to your advantage. So what we do here is click on to render here and then go to smart money. We know that there's been a change in the last 24 hours. We sort by 24 hours. And we can see that the biggest outflow is from Kinetic Capital. So we go to their transactions. And then let's see what they've done. So what they've done is they've moved funds to this address here. And so I'm going to press Command click. And they did it in a test transaction, and they sent the remaining funds after confirming the test transaction is the right address. And so often you see funds do a small test transaction to make sure that, hey, they've got control of the funds and they'll move the funds there. And so what you'll often also see is that funds will move funds from one wallet to another wallet to another wallet to another wallet to kind of keep it detached. And often when you start seeing these funds move to different wallets, they're looking to do something with those funds, often moving to a centralized exchange, which if we go to transactions, I'm sure we'll likely see. And yeah, we see that render was sent to Bybit, OKX, Binance, and I'm assuming that this is probably also an exchange at Coinbase. So we have seen kinetic capital. So what we saw with the signal is that there's been a smart money outflow, and this has gone to a different address. And then from that address, we saw that they moved funds to 4 different types of exchanges: Binance, OKX, Coinbase, and Bybit. And they're most likely going to be selling those tokens. So that's quite interesting to see. And if we look at kinetic capital, so that we can see how does this compare to the overall holdings of Render. And so again, one of the cool things we've done now is with Entity Profiler, and Entity Profiler bundles up all the addresses that we have within Nansen under one area. So for kinetic capital, all the addresses that we have here, we can see sort by all chains by default, and we can see their holdings. And as we can see here, Render is the largest holding, and they've been moving funds gradually off here. And then if we look at we can see the counterparties here. This will show us the different addresses. So I'll wait for that to load. Kinetic capital, this one here looks like to be the largest. So that doesn't. Let's just go here. See what other ones they've got. So it looks like they've been moving funds a lot recently. So yeah, IMX, that's interesting to see here. And I wanted to do volume out, sorry. This will show you the addresses, some of the addresses. And you can see some of the addresses where they've been moving funds back and forth to. And I'm going to go to transactions actually just quickly, just to make life a little bit easier for this. Kinetic Capital 0xFC. So in this case, they moved funds on the 6th of March, and they presumably have been reducing the amounts there. We'll wait for this to load. And yeah, we still saw them move funds. So really interesting to see that this address that has been doing quite well with Render is starting to offload funds. So if we look at other addresses related to kinetic capital, we might see that they are just being a little bit risk off because there's been significant movement. And yeah, they're up substantially, because if we go here, here's another address that they have. They're up 421%. So that's significant, especially when you're playing with numbers like this. 421% is just under $20 million. So that's huge. And when, yeah. So it's just an interesting way we can use a signal to understand what's going on and break that information down. And this could potentially be something that you can use to your advantage. So if you're seeing an address that is selling after holding significantly, a significant amount after a long period of time, when they've made a significant amount of gain, that could be something that you could use to your advantage. But let's have a look into Render generally. So the final part of our list, let's spend like 10 minutes just diving into tokens. How do we research a token? I'm going to use Render as an example. And so the first thing that you ever want to do is look into the smart money net flows. This is an indicator. Again, you want to see exchange inflow. That's interesting. And you want to see how many holders have changed in the last 24 hours. So we can see it's been a little bit bearish, because we can see smart money selling. There's been a few changes in hands here, and there has been a significant price increase. So it might be that people are saying, look, I was holding around this point here. It's gone down. It's now back up. I'd like to sell. And that's reasonable behavior, but we need to look into the data to decide what's actually going on here. So one of my favorite things, again, is the who bought and who sold. I can see this one address stands out more than anyone else. They bought 1.5 million in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to command click. But we're going to look into the sales, because these are the ones I think might be interesting. So SCP, Aurora's Global, that could be interesting. High balance, not seeing too many big changes here. And again, when we zoom out to 24 hours, 7 days, sorry, we're not seeing too many big sales. But what you would do in this process is go through the who bought, who sold. Typically the top addresses, depending on the token, you'd want to be looking at a specific amount of value. So in this case, I would probably look at anyone who sold more than, let's say, 30,000, or who's bought more than 30,000, just so I get an understanding of addresses, both big and large. So big and large, large and small. And then from there, decide, okay, cool. Like, what are the smaller accounts doing? What are the larger accounts doing? Like, how can I use this information to my advantage? How profitable are they? How interesting are they? Go from there. We also want to look at balances, and we always want to look at balances and have a quick look at the top changes. So we can see that Kraken, Bybit has some changes. OKX has some changes. We're not that interested in this. This address is unlabeled, so we can dive into that a bit later potentially. But you can see that generally the top holders haven't changed their balances. We exclude exchanges because obviously they're not an address, they're not a user, they're not an individual, they're not a fund. They're there to literally just facilitate trading. So funds go in, funds go out. Let's go to the second page. And we can see that there's been a small change here in the last 7 days. And this is what you want to be looking into, is like an indicator. And again, some of the other top holders here, and they're not selling. This tends to be quite good when the price is up substantially. And again, you're seeing not much here. An address that has recently changed their balance in the last 30 days, always a good sign. So you would go to transactions to understand. So when you open up Nansen, go to the transactions tab, and just get a good overview of what's going on. If you think that there's something interesting happening in the price movements, what you would potentially do after that is go to the who bought and who sold. Command click through a few addresses that you kind of catch your attention. Maybe they have an interesting label when you hover over, or maybe they've bought a significant amount, maybe they've sold a significant amount, and then go to do some research from there. And then you'd also look at balances to see if there's any major balance changes in the top holders. Maybe you go through the first couple of pages. As we're kind of short for time at the moment, I won't go into too much. And then we'll also look into smart money. So we always want to have an understanding of what smart money is doing to get an understanding of their behavior, because often smart money has an edge in the market that could be beneficial to us as on-chain sleuths. So I did see there was an address that bought a significant amount of render. So let's have a look to see who they are and what they're doing. And they've made 15% already on render. So they've made $500,000 there, which is significant. We can look at their tokens here. They render, switched out, and they bought in again. So this is quite interesting. So we know that they've made a realized gain off render. They then deposited a bunch of USDT into Aave by the looks of things. And then from there, they've now just gone back and bought a bunch of render. And we're going to look into their PnL. Again, this is a really cool feature that's going to be coming out very soon, about 2 weeks. Win rate's not too good. Profit's not too good. Unrealized gains, not too good right now. They're currently down in their buy of render. And if we right click and go to wallet profile of a token, let's see how things have played out. So we're going to go to all here. It looks like they have been very involved in render for a long time. So there was an inflow in December when the price was $3.55. Let's have a look. So we'll go all the way back here. And we'll wait for this to load. And then we can see that they've transferred. So they've been using one address to facilitate trading. They moved it to this address. They then did some selling activity through this address. And then they were buying and selling aggressively from here. So we can assume they bought in early here, price started going down, they bought and sold a bunch, bought and sold a bunch. And as the price is starting to go back up again, they're looking to buy. I'm kind of curious to see who this next trader is, to see who their first funded is, because I want to see who are they. Maybe they're a fund or something along those lines. Go to related wallets, go down to Dex Trader here, scroll down, name. We'll do the same here. And sometimes you can find something interesting. In some cases, you just go down a bit of a rabbit hole where you just go back and forth and you kind of go so far removed that it's no longer as actionable. But sometimes you can find things here such as first funded this address on Friendtech, it first funded this address on Farcaster. It could be a fund, it could be an exchange, and that kind of gives you insights into the behavior of the address. So I don't see there's too much here, and I could probably spend more time diving into this, but again, conscious for time. Let's have a look into this token millionaire here. That's another address that was quite interesting. Trade highlights up to 3 million in render, which is substantial, up 91%. Their entire portfolio is render. First funded again. So here we go. They were funded by Upbit. And if we look at wallet profile of a token, so right click wallet profile of a token, we want to see the token behavior for this address. And we go all. We can see that they were literally buying on Upbit and they moved funds here. So they first got in at $2.65 and then they've been buying and selling, buying and selling. So they use Upbit as their facilitator. So when they buy, they buy on the exchange and send it to the exchange this address. When they sell, they send it to the exchange and sell from there by the looks of things. As you can see, their balance has been gradually increasing by following the purple, like bluish purple line at the top. And you can see the price has been going up, but now they're starting to move some of those funds back into our bit. So if you was interested in Render as a holder, and you can see they've been aggressively buying, kind of building up a position. Now they're looking to offload it. Maybe that's something that you want to track with smart alerts. So to do that, you go to smart alerts and then new alerts, and then go to token transfers and using this address or a custom label to then say, hey, I want to see what's going on with this address and stay updated with them, because if they're looking to sell or they're buying, I want to know that so that I can make decisions with precision. And that's the value of spending time with Nansen, so you can see what is happening with tokens, addresses that have significant influence. This address has $27 million worth for this token. If they're making moves, that is probably a very strong indicator for you, as opposed to someone who has, let's say, $200. If they're selling, I don't think it's going to move the market. If they're selling, it might move the market. Finally, I want to have a look at this other address that I found that was selling Render as well. They're worth 300 million. We scroll down here to first funded, high activity. There's a bit of I think this might be a bit of a spiral. So it's funded by Bitstamp. So someone, and they ended up going back and forth. So it's quite interesting to see. We can see that holdings at the moment, if we go to their PnL. So again, PnL is a new feature, really excited about it. You're going to start seeing these insights here. Yeah, turning 6 million to 10 million with Ethereum, pretty cool. Making 26 million unrealized gains is pretty cool. And if we go to the transactions tab, let's see what they're doing. And they're transferring funds back and forth. So this could potentially be an interesting entity that I would share internally and get the Giga brains who know their stuff on chain to have a look into, because as it is substantial, it could be maybe a fund, it could be maybe an exchange, hot wallet, it could be a few little things. And we're always constantly adding labels to addresses so we know who they are and what they're doing. So I'm going to go to Render, as we noticed they were selling. I'll right click and go to what private token. I say selling, they were reducing their balance, they could be moving it to another address. And what we see here is if we go to all time, we'll get back to all time here as well, is that there was Coinbase, they were Coinbasing, and they're building up a position, and it doesn't look like they're selling actually, which is quite interesting. So maybe this was a who bought. And so they've been building the position. If we look, they bought at $6.95, $9.31, $11. That's near the top now, $11 again. And again, they're building a position. So what might be useful here is this, again, setting up smart alerts to see what is going on, so that if they're making moves, that is really, really useful for you to understand what's going on with the token. And you can do this with any token. We can do it on different tokens on, say, Base, Arbitrum. Everything's going multi-chain. That's going to be really, really cool. And if there is anything that you want me to look into, feel free to just fire away. We're building out a wealth of educational resources to kind of help you win, how to use Nansen, how we use Nansen, some of our tips and tricks, some of our workflows, how to stay up top of trends. We're becoming really, really product obsessed and making a tool that makes you win on chain. I'm really, really excited about that. I've seen some comments in YouTube. So, hey, why is there no 3 or 6 month crypto payment option? We find that crypto payments are a bit of a pain to deal with, but we're making some improvements. I think we can probably include a 3 or 6 month payment, truth be told. I think the 1 month payment was a bit of a problem in the past, but 3 to 6 months, I think that makes a lot of sense, truth be told. So I'll send that feedback to the team, and if we do it, you'll be able to see that when it happens. We'll make a post about that on our socials. And then, do we need more women on our team? We're always looking to hire more people. We don't care about who you are, what your background is, male, female, wherever you're located. So if you're in Asia, Europe, Africa, it doesn't matter. As long as you're good enough for the job, we want you on the team. We want the best of the best, and the best of the best don't fit a certain mold. So just check out our careers page. And if there's an opportunity there for you and you think you fit the bill, please, please, please apply. We encourage everyone to do that, whether, again, you're male, female, you're based in one country or another. We have no preference. We just want the best talent. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Office Hours. We're going to be doing many more episodes soon. There's a lot of multi-chain content coming out soon. There is a lot of things that I've been working on behind the scenes that I'm quite excited to share with you. And yeah, I hope you can benefit from this episode of Office Hours effectively. So hopefully you can get excited about PnL feature, you can research addresses and see why they're interesting. And we can always do more on that. So thank you very much, everyone. It has been a very, very hot day in London. I don't know if you can tell. But we'll be here, Office Hours, next week, sharing more and more alpha with you. So all the best and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.